The morning the letters arrived, I knew it was going to be one of those pivotal days. There was a kind of electricity in the air, thick with anticipation. The mailbox held 2 thick envelopes with the Eastfield University crest stamped in blue and gold. One for me. One for Chelsea. I clutched mine to my chest like a sacred relic and walked inside, heart hammering with a mixture of excitement and fear. Chelsea was already at the kitchen table, tearing hers open with perfectly manicured nails, bouncing with excitement. "Oh my God." I got in. She screamed, waving the acceptance letter like a victory flag. Mom dropped her spatula and rushed over, arms open. "Sweetheart. We're so proud of you." Dad gave her a congratulatory clap on the back before heading to the cabinet to grab a bottle of sparkling cider. It was a full celebration. Comfortably ignoring the fact that they have paid for her seat at the university and it was not her own efforts which got her there, I stood silently by the door, my own envelope unopened in my hands. "Aren't you going to check yours?" Chelsea asked, finally noticing me. I nodded and slowly opened it. My eyes scanned the words, "Congratulations, Eastfield University, fall semester," before I allowed myself a small, proud smile. I had done it too on my own but got no recognition as always. "I got in too," I said, voice soft but sure, holding up my letter. For a moment, silence, then Mom gave me a brief, polite smile. "That's great, honey. Could you grab the camera so we can get a picture of Chelsea?" And just like that, my moment vanished. I took the photo, blinking back the sting behind my eyes. It wasn't about me, not in their eyes. It never had been. Later that evening, as Chelsea chatted excitedly about housing options and dorm decor, I sat with my laptop, trying to make sense of the financials. "We've already committed to helping Chelsea," Dad said when I asked about assistance. "Her rent, books, meals. We have a budget." "What about me?" I asked. Mom sighed. "You're resourceful, Jenny. You've always been the independent one. You'll figure something out." That was the moment the line between us solidified, not just between me and Chelsea, but between me and my family. They celebrated her success. They expected mine to be quiet, hidden, and self-sustaining. A week before move-in day, Chelsea was packing up her new designer luggage while I was rolling second-hand suitcases from the thrift store. Her voice echoed through the house as she FaceTimed friends about her apartment, complete with granite countertops and a view of the river. Meanwhile, I had found a barely affordable dorm room I'd be sharing with a stranger. My orientation pack was filled with loan information, job applications, and a frayed campus map. Dad, can I get help with textbooks?" I asked one evening, heart sinking as I looked at the required materials list. "We just paid for Chelsea's books," Dad said, not unkindly. "Maybe try renting or buying used." Chelsea overheard and rolled her eyes. "It's not that expensive, Jenny. Don't be dramatic." "Not that expensive?" She had no idea. They helped her move into her apartment first, laughing, taking selfies, ordering takeout. When it came time to drop me off, they didn't even get out of the car. I struggled with my bags alone, my new roommate watching sympathetically. "You good?" she asked. "Yeah," I lied. The first semester was a blur of classwork and exhaustion. I worked in the campus library during the day, and closed the coffee shop at midnight. I bought textbooks secondhand, some with entire chapters missing. I skipped meals, stretched every dollar. Chelsea, meanwhile, switched majors from journalism to theater because the classes were boring, and her Instagram was a highlight reel of parties, pool days, and brunches. She called home weekly. I rarely did. What was the point? When I brought up the unequal treatment during Thanksgiving break, the room went cold. "Chelsea needs more support," Dad said carefully. "We want her to have a strong foundation." "And you're so capable already," Mom added. "You've always been the one we could rely on." It was a twisted kind of praise. I was being punished for being strong. For not needing them enough, I walked away from that conversation feeling hollow, but more determined than ever. College became both a battlefield and a sanctuary. I'd wake before sunrise to work the early shift at the campus cafe, brewing coffee for classmates who had no idea I was one of them. I served them while they laughed about parties and weekend plans. I memorized their orders like a robot: half CAF vanilla latte, extra foam. Black coffee, 2 sugars, but never their names. They existed in a different world. After my shift, I'd rush to class. Sometimes I could feel the exhaustion swimming behind my eyes, threatening to pull me under. But I kept going. Not because I had something to prove to the world, but because I had something to prove to myself. I studied everywhere: on the campus lawn, in the back of lecture halls, in the library until closing. I joined clubs not for fun, but for networking. I tutored other students for extra cash. I took up a research assistant position for one of my professors and used that connection to score an unpaid internship at a behavioral consulting firm. Every hour of my day was accounted for. Every penny spent was logged. I knew where every cent of my meager budget went. I saw Chelsea now and then, laughing outside the student union, posting selfies with my college life captions. She flitted from one major to another like changing outfits. She failed biology, then economics, then theater. She blamed the professors, the textbooks, even the toxic academic system. Never herself, she walked around campus like she owned it. I walked like I was carrying it on my back, and yet, I didn't envy her. Not anymore. Because for all her polish, her brand new MacBook and fancy apartment, Chelsea had no anchor. No direction. No grit. I had all three. It was late fall of junior year when everything began to shift. I was walking across the quad after a long night editing my capstone research when someone tapped my shoulder. "Jenny Moore?" A voice asked. I turned to see a girl from Chelsea's sorority, Tasha, I think. Just wanted to say, people have noticed you. In class, in the department. You're kind of a legend. I blinked. Legend? She grinned. Yeah. The girl who works 2 jobs, takes double major classes, tutors half the football team, and still aces everything? You're the one people whisper about during finals. I didn't know what to say. No one had ever spoken about me like that before. Later that week, Professor Halbert called me into his office. I thought I was in trouble. Instead, he said, "You're at the top of your class in both departments, Jenny. I'm putting your name forward for valedictorian." I sat frozen. Are you sure? You've earned it. We've all seen the work you put in. You've got the highest GPA in the graduating class. My throat tightened, and I barely whispered my thanks. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about showing them up, but I won't lie, knowing I was about to be crowned valedictorian while my parents still thought I was just getting by. That hit a part of me that had long been starving. Back at the dorm, I passed by a group of girls talking about Chelsea. "She's totally failing intro to media," one said. "She switched majors again, didn't she?" Another added. "Her parents must be pissed." I slipped by them quietly, not saying a word. I didn't need to. I was already on a different level. The day felt like a dream, sunny, too perfect, the kind of weather you'd expect on a magazine cover. I woke before dawn, staring at my cap and gown hanging neatly on the door. I had ironed it 3 times. I wanted it perfect. I wanted every crease to reflect the weight I had carried these 4 years. I pinned my valedictorian sash carefully, checked my speech one last time, then headed to the auditorium. The place was buzzing. Students in caps and gowns laughed with friends, posed for pictures with professors, held up signs for family members in the stands. I stood quietly at the front of the line, my heart thudding, eyes scanning the crowd until they found the familiar faces. My parents sat in the second row, perfectly dressed, beaming proudly, but not at me. Chelsea sat between them, sunglasses perched on her head like a tiara, scrolling through her phone with bored detachment. No cap. No gown. Just a tight white dress and uncomfortable silence between her and the podium. I doubted they knew she wasn't graduating. When my name was announced, the shift in their expressions was something I'll never forget: shock. Disbelief. A flicker of something like guilt, or was it shame? "Ladies and gentlemen, our valedictorian, Jenny Moore." The applause washed over me like a warm tide. I took the podium slowly, steadying my breath, steadying my voice. My journey here hasn't been easy, I began, scanning the crowd. I came here not just to get a degree, but to prove something, to myself. That I could rise, even when no one offered me a hand. People leaned in. Phones came up to record. I worked 2 jobs. I studied in stairwells. I lived in shadows. And I am standing here not because of privilege or connections, but because I refused to give up. My eyes found my parents. Mom's lips parted slightly, as if to say something. Dad blinked rapidly, visibly processing the words. Some people are given a map. I had to draw mine from scratch. A pause. To those of you who've ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or invisible, this is your sign. Keep going. Even if no one sees you yet. The crowd erupted. Some people stood. Some cheered. And me? I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just stood there, grounded. Like I'd finally found the center of myself. They approached me after the ceremony, hesitantly. Jenny, Mom said, her voice trembling. We didn't know you were doing so well. You didn't care to know, I replied calmly. Chelsea didn't speak. She looked broken. But I felt no guilt. I had worked for this. I had suffered in silence. I had risen while they turned their backs. That day, I didn't just graduate. I severed a chain. I was no longer seeking their approval. I didn't need their praise. I had given myself everything they denied me, but it didn't stop there. A week later, Chelsea called. Hey. Jenny, Mom and Dad said maybe you could help with rent for a bit. Things are tight. I blinked. You're joking. They said you're working now. You have a good job. And it's what family does, right? I let out a bitter laugh. Family? That's rich coming from you. A few days later, it was Dad asking if I could co-sign a loan. Then Mom, calling in tears, saying Chelsea was depressed, and wouldn't I please help her get back on track. I paused before I answered. You didn't help me when I was drowning. Don't guilt me now that your favorite has sunk. Then came the final blow. Chelsea showed up at my apartment. She barged in, mascara running, voice shrill. Don't act like you're better than me. She yelled. You think you're so high and mighty just because you worked your ass off and got lucky. I didn't flinch. No, Chelsea. I'm not better because I got lucky. I'm better because I didn't quit. You had every advantage and still failed. That's on you. She scoffed. Whatever. You're still alone. You'll always be alone. I stepped forward, voice low and fierce. I'd rather be alone than surrounded by people who only remember me when they need something. Get out. She hesitated. Jenny, I pointed at the door. Out. That was the last time I saw her. The last time I picked up a call from home. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. And when you finally escape a house that never felt like home, don't open the door again just because they remember your name. I gave them years of silence and got nothing in return. Now I give them silence again, but this time, it's my choice.